What if I told you that the real survival tools of World War II soldiers were never mentioned in their letters home, never logged in official reports, and never displayed in museums? The items that actually kept them alive were the ones they carried in silence, hidden from officers, medics, and even their own families. These weren't standard-issue items, but were the brutal, unvarnished truth of combat survival. We're talking about psychological lifelines, escape kits designed for capture, and weapons so personal they'd never admit to carrying them. Every veteran who walked off a battlefield carried secrets, and today we're revealing 9 categories of survival gear that soldiers took to their graves. Before we continue, subscribe to my channel for more interesting insights and forgotten moments from World War II. Let me take you back to 1943. You're a GI crouched in a foxhole somewhere in Italy, and the standard-issue gear in your pack isn't enough. The veterans who survived Kasserine Pass taught you that official equipment gets you killed. So you start building your own kit, piece by piece, with things you'll never write home about. First up, Lucky Charms. But that term doesn't capture the full story. A silver coin wasn't just luck, but was an emergency screwdriver, a tool for digging debris out of a jammed rifle, and a makeshift prying implement. Soldiers carried photographs of wives and children, believing that looking at them before an assault offered spiritual protection. Here's what they didn't tell anyone. Many of those class rings weren't just memories from home, but were weapons they could use in close-quarters combat, turned into improvised brass knuckles when ammunition ran out. Some went darker. They'd take small items from fallen enemy combatants, believing the previous owner's luck could transfer to them. A button, a coin, something small enough to hide. This was trophy-taking at its most primal level, and veterans never spoke about it because it revealed just how desperate survival made them. Then there's the Go-to-Hell kit. This was a small, hidden collection designed for one nightmare scenario: being cut off from your unit deep behind enemy lines. These kits were concealed in hollowed-out canteens or sewn into jacket linings where captors would never find them. Inside, multiple currencies, not just American dollars but German marks, French francs, Japanese yen. If you're trying to survive in occupied territory, you need to bribe locals and buy silence. Miniature compasses were sewn into uniform seams or hidden inside buttons because standard-issue compasses could be confiscated during capture. Veterans would also acquire detailed local maps, often annotated with safe houses and hostile patrol routes. Some created their own blood chits, cloth banners with messages in multiple languages, promising rewards for safe return. This wasn't official gear, but was a handmade lifeline for when everything went wrong. The non-regulation knife hits even harder. Combat veterans knew standard-issue blades were inadequate, so they'd acquire a third knife, something never mentioned in reports. Many carried a bayonet, an entrenching tool, and then a personal fighting knife like a Fairbairn Sykes Commando dagger. This wasn't for cooking or carving wood, but was chosen specifically for its balance and killing efficiency in brutal, intimate combat. These men became experts at maintaining razor edges using whatever they could find. The porcelain insulator from a spark plug, the smooth edge of a truck window, even the leather of their own boots. They also knew their personal knives served multiple purposes: opening cans, cutting wire, prying open crates. But the primary purpose was that final, desperate struggle when ammunition was gone. Souvenirs weren't always about bragging rights, but were often taken for survival utility. A captured German Luger wasn't just a keepsake, but was a highly reliable backup weapon that used abundant enemy ammunition. If you got separated from supply lines, that enemy pistol could save your life. Captured German binoculars were often superior to Allied issue optics. The P-38 can opener deserves special mention. This tiny piece of folded steel was arguably the most important survival tool of the entire war. GIs took them by the handful because they were the key to accessing canned rations. Veterans would carry 3 or 4 because losing your only can opener in combat could mean starvation. The improvised medical kit reveals where battlefield medicine gets grim. Soldiers who survived their first firefights learned to collect extra morphine syrettes from wounded men who couldn't be saved or from abandoned kits. This personal stash was never discussed, but every veteran knew official supplies could run out when you needed them most. They'd replace flimsy tourniquets with sturdy improvised ones made from leather straps and webbing, something that wouldn't break under pressure when a buddy was bleeding out. Sulfur powder packets were lifesavers. Veterans carried multiple additional packets because immediate application to a wound was the best defense against gangrene. They'd create butterfly stitches from medical adhesive to close shallow shrapnel wounds, allowing them to stay functional without immediate medic attention. Small bottles of high-proof alcohol served triple duty, disinfecting wounds, cleaning tools, and as sterile irrigation fluid. For troops in the Pacific Theater or bomber crews over Europe, the threat of becoming a POW was constant. Silk maps of enemy territory were compressed into tiny wads and sewn into uniform linings or hidden inside playing cards. Even non-smokers hoarded cigarette rations because in a POW camp, cigarettes became universal currency for bribing guards and trading for extra food. Miniature wire saws were concealed in uniform hems, designed for quietly cutting through bars during escape attempts. Some soldiers carried tiny phrase books on rice paper, easily destroyed if capture seemed imminent. Others would subtly file their dog tags to create readable burrs, using them to convey simple Morse code messages to fellow POWs. This was planning for the worst-case scenario, and veterans never discussed it because acknowledging the possibility of capture meant acknowledging vulnerability. Comfort items had dual purposes. The boonie hat in the Pacific wasn't just about comfort, but prevented fungal infections and heat stroke during static positions. A simple scarf kept dust out of lungs, served as a makeshift sling, filtered water, worked as a towel, and concealed faces during ambushes. Pocket watches were more reliable than wristwatches, allowing soldiers to synchronize attacks without metal glint giving away positions. Sewing kits served more than uniform repair. They stitched torn gear, repaired canvas, and, in dire circumstances, sutured wounds when no medic was available. And then there's the condom. The primary survival use was waterproof storage for keeping tinder, matches, and rifle-firing mechanisms dry during amphibious landings. Field-expedient tools represent pure soldier ingenuity. Men would cut canteens in half and create efficient stoves for heating rations without producing large, smoky fires. Tank crews lacking official flak jackets would craft improvised body armor by layering captured steel plates into their uniforms. Trench clubs, crudely made from shovel handles and lead weights, were universal tools of night raids. Brutally efficient, completely silent, perfectly lethal. The most critical category is psychological armor. The methodical act of cleaning a weapon or brewing coffee created bubbles of normalcy in absolute chaos. These routines were defense mechanisms against madness. Soldiers suffered from what we now call PTSD, but called it battle fatigue or shell shock. They carried this invisible burden silently, because speaking about it could be seen as cowardice. Dark gallows humor was a vital coping mechanism. The ability to laugh in the face of death kept men from breaking down. Veterans practiced selective memory, actively choosing not to speak about the worst things they witnessed. This emotional compartmentalization was necessary to function and eventually return to civilian life. They adopted a one-more-day mentality, focusing not on the war's end, but on surviving the next patrol, the next day, the next hour. Their deepest psychological armor was the unspoken bond with squadmates. They fought not for grand ideals, but for the man next to them, a loyalty so profound it was rarely discussed. Even something as simple as maintaining clean, dry socks was a ritualistic defense against trench foot. And underlying everything was an unwritten code. Never leave a man behind, share resources, maintain a stoic front for newer soldiers. These 9 categories reveal that a World War II soldier's true kit was far more than what the quartermaster issued, but was a blend of privately acquired tools, improvised equipment, and deeply internalized psychological strategies. Every item tells a story of desperate ingenuity and brutal practicality. They survived, not because of what they were given, but because of what they created and carried in silence. If learning about the silent survival tools of WW2 soldiers opened your eyes to combat's raw reality, hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten history. Share this with someone who thinks they know everything about World War II, because the real story of survival was never written in official reports, but was carried in silence by the men who lived it.